What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So I think the New York Jets trade down partner has finally been found, right? The Cincinnati Bengals and the New York Jets could pair up for probably the most sensible draft day trade that'll be coming up here in a couple of weeks. I know the hot name that's been floating around there is the Indianapolis Colts, since it seems like they may want to trade up for a Brock Bowers. Realistically, though, I don't see that really happening. I can't recall the last time a team traded up for a tight end. You just really want to hope that maybe he slides to you somehow. But sticking with the Bengals here, I think this makes the most sense because if you want to talk about the disaster when it comes to offensive line development from college to NFL and overall just being a tough time trying to find solid NFL linemen, right? Just to have an average line, you have to be pretty much hell-bent on dumping a ton of resources. You also have to kind of pray for health and then hope that the line can consistently remain intact together. The New York Jets are no stranger to this, right? I think outside of a team like Cleveland, the New York Jets have been one of the hardest hit teams, not only from a injury history standpoint, but then of course just being able to develop linemen, keep them on this roster, and see them outproduce draft rankings or at least live up to their secondary contracts, right? The Bengals, I would say, are pretty similar in the same boat, right? You take a look at that interior line with Carmen Jackson and some of the questions they've had around there. They've had to do a lot of musical chairs just in the interior. This offseason, they finally lock up the tackle positions in a reasonable manner, right? Orlando Brown gets his 4-year contract. He is the blindside protector for the foreseeable future. Then you bring a Trent Brown on a 1-year, just north of $4 million deal. Kind of a prove-it deal, but you take a look at the age, you take a look at the injury history, you're not fully confident in that. So I'm pretty confident saying this is a sensible trade because at the New York Jets' 10th, overall pick in the first round, you could have your pick of pretty much any of the premium right tackles that you want without having to worry about a team necessarily leapfrogging you, right? And I think this narrows down to Fuaga versus J.C. Latham realistically, just based on what I've seen. But that could be something that's favorable. Instead of holding their breath and hoping that a guy they still love falls to them, they can be proactive about this and go up and get their guy to replace Trent Brown, even push him in year one realistically. But I don't think it's too dissimilar from the New York Jets situation where you take a look at on paper this offensive line and it looks fantastic with, Tyron Smith being rolled out there, Morgan Moses, but you still have concerns about the injury question marks and then, of course, the age as well, and, of course, them being on 1-year contracts. I think the Jets are in a better situation to risk, especially since they're going to be getting an additional pick in day 2 out of this, which we'll talk about the compensation here, but we're in a better situation to take advantage of finding the best value addition we can at tackle in the first round by trading back rather than necessarily staying back to get a blue chip guy that we know for the most part is going to have to sit on the bench, which I personally don't have a problem with. But if you can also add a high quality, wide receiver option in the second round as well, I think that combination of, mid-round tackle plus mid-round wide receiver ultimately will outproduce just the one player you get at 10. So from the Bengals side, makes perfect sense. Go up, be proactive, get your, future tackles, future bookends for the next 3+ years locked in. And for the Jets, you can go out and get yourself a very valuable ad, right? I think at this point you start seriously considering guys like Amarius Mims or Tyler Guyton, who are high on the athletic traits, not necessarily having a ton of experience, which shouldn't necessarily be looked as a knock against them once you drop back to that mid to early 20s portion of the draft. And then again, they're not playing right away unless injury creeps up extremely early. So you feel good about taking that risk, especially considering you now have that round 2 selection. You can use that to pair up and move back up a little higher or stay there, get yourself a great addition. If a guy drops like a Troy Franklin or something, if you happen to fall in love with them, I think it's perfect for us, right? From the Jets' perspective, I take a look at this as if Joe Douglas can find a way to pull this off, he essentially can control the next core wave of this team for the Jets, right? I think in some various combination, you're going wide receiver and tackle in the first and second round. After that, it's whatever, right? Yeah, I think you can plug and play a lot of different pieces. We still need cornerback depth. We still need safety depth. You can look to add to the tight end room still potentially. You can still try to bolster the guard position. Defensive tackle needs some depth and, future people that are going to be around outside of 1-year deals. So there's a lot still that you can, tinker with at the bottom of this roster to try to improve. But ultimately, you take advantage of exactly what this draft class allows. You get your 2 guys early at value-added additions, again, at tackle and at wide receiver. And then because a lot of other people are going to be tapping into that resource as well, when you do get to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round of the draft, you have a lot of these defensive guys that normally would have been taking 4 rounds ahead of where they should have been that may be sitting in your lap waiting for you to scoop them up. And now you're starting to have more of that Baltimore Ravens type draft class where you're questioning how did a guy like this get all the way to you in, the 3rd, 4th round. So super excited for that part of things. Also, keep in mind for the Jets, this isn't a draft class that's really, we're not looking to find day one starters in 2024 necessarily, right? And I think it'd be hard to do so no matter where you want to go. If it's wide receiver, that guy has to compete with Mike Williams, who you just gave a decent enough contract to be your surefire high-end number 2. If you get a tackle, you're not replacing them with Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses unless they just absolutely hands down outperform them, and you're not going with a guard that high. Tight end, you can reasonably say you can make them a slot receiver and get them on the field, but then you're taking away from a guy like Xavier Gibson, which isn't the biggest concern necessarily either. But ultimately, this is about finding that next core group that can help supplement that 2022 draft class. So when we get down to the compensation piece of this, right, generally speaking here, there's a lot of different ways and different chart values for this stuff now, but the 10th pick is worth 1,300 points. You take a look at the Bengals, pick 18, which is their first rounder, pick 49, which is their second rounder, approximately equals 1,310 points. So it's almost perfect, right? Any team that's trading up generally is going to overpay for these things anyways, but if you had to nitpick and the Bengals just weren't having any of it, the Jets can throw in one of their 6 rounders that are still remaining to kind of offset that. Or maybe you do a pick swap, right, with one of them, some of them later round selections. But this ends up being a great situation. The Bengals, who have 4 picks in the top 100, will still walk away with the top 10 pick, 2 selections in the 3rd round. The Jets recoup their second rounder that went to the Green Bay Packers as part of the Rodgers trade. Again, in some combination, you go wide receiver and offensive tackle. The rest of the class is up for you to take advantage of. So I'm all here for it. Bengals fans, let me know how you feel, though. Is this too crazy? Are you guys pretty sure that you can just sit at 18 and get one of the best right tackles available? Are you honing in on somebody? And for the Jets, I know just personally being a part of the fan base, a lot of us love the trade down option. But I don't know. Some people may be locked in otherwise still. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you again. Peace.